Hey, what's up guys? Justin Johnson here. In the 20 plus years I've been a professional slide guitar player, I have wasted so much time. I have taken so many wrong turns in my development. There are so many things that I wish I could go back and basically tell myself when I first started playing slide. Some of this has to do with just easy tips and easy techniques that could have made my development faster. Things that could have made it a lot less frustrating when I started playing slide, and I literally gave up playing slide like 2 or 3 times before I really stuck with it. And I could have just easily gotten over those things if I'd have known what it was particularly that I was having an issue with early on. Then there's other things that I was just being stubborn about or not understanding or not digging into, like how important certain techniques with my left or right hand were. So I'm going to break all of these things down for you in this lesson, and no matter what skill level you're at, no matter if you've never played slide before, or even if you're a good slide player, I really think you're going to get some big chunks of knowledge that could be extremely helpful for taking you to the next level on your slide guitar journey. All right, so the first few chunks of advice I'm going to give you are basically about how to get extra control over the guitar, over the slide, because control is a huge element when you're playing slide. So let's start with the guitar. This is hugely important. I've never heard anyone really talk about this when it comes to slide guitar. But see what I'm doing right now? I'm totally controlling the guitar without the use of my left hand. And so you have to be able to do this before you can even start to think about, I'm going to start playing slide guitar. I'm going to start doing this. You have to be able to do this first. And I know maybe it seems like easy to just have the guitar in your lap like this, but there's an extra level of control you need. Like when I'm sliding, my hand is in the position to control the slide. My thumb is anchored on the back of the neck. There's all these things that I'm doing with my left hand that I need total control over my left hand in the slide in order to do. When you play fretted, you can grip the neck and you can control the guitar with your left hand. When you're playing slide, the guitar is going to do its own thing. You have to control the guitar with this side of your body. The way you do that, I'm sitting down right now, but there's 3 points of contact you have to have on the guitar to have good control over it. I'm touching the guitar down here, basically on the top of my leg, like where my leg meets my body. The guitar is touching me right here, basically at the bottom of my rib cage, touching my torso. And then I'm always anchoring with the back of my forearm right here against the corner of the guitar. Doesn't matter what type of guitar it is, what size, acoustic, electric, resonator like this one. My hand's in playing position, but I'm anchoring here, and I can raise the neck if I want. I can raise or lower my leg if I want, and it'll lower that. The guitar is facing out. The guitar's not facing up like this, because you can't play slide like that. You have to have the guitar in total control. So a way that you can do this, and it's an easy way to practice, is to just hold the guitar. Hold the guitar when you're working on the computer. Hold the guitar when you're eating. Anytime you're doing something, even if you're not playing the guitar, hold the guitar in your lap, but don't touch it with your left hand. This will instinctively make you have to start to control the guitar and start to get a good feel for how to just keep it controlled in your lap. A lot of beginner guitar players and even intermediate guitar players have trouble controlling the instrument, and they think it's the instrument's fault. They think this is a steel-bodied resonator, and it slides out of my lap, or the body's heavy and then the headstock wants to go up. None of this should be a problem for you if you're doing what I'm talking about and controlling the guitar. And the way to practice that naturally is just to sit with it, get comfortable with it, and I mean hours and hours until you forget that the guitar is even in your lap. Now the same is the case with the slide. The same thing applies to the slide. You need to have the slide on your finger, and you need to be able to not even remember that the slide's on your finger. You need to have this become like a natural appendage. It has to be a part of your body. And the way that I did this when I first started playing slide, and it really helped me out, was that I just wore the slide on my finger. You know, I'd practice slide, but even when I was done practicing the slide, I would just keep it on my hand and go about my day. I would always have it on. And I mean, I did this for days until, again, I can talk, I can gesture, I can move, I can pick things up, and I'm keeping that slide on my finger all day long. And it should be in playing position. You know, for me, I play with my middle finger, and my slide goes up to this knuckle of my middle finger. It doesn't go all the way up like this. It goes up here, and I control the slide. The slide's bigger than my finger is, like wider. I control it by bending my finger like this inside the slide. So I don't even have to touch it with my fingers that are surrounding it. But it really helps. You'd be surprised how much it helps. So another way to learn how to control the slide without actually even playing the slide is to play the guitar with the slide on your finger. This is a huge tip. It'll make you a better slide player because you're going to learn how to keep the slide in control when it's on your hand. But it'll also make you a better guitar player, even with your fretted playing, because you're going to learn how to use your pinky more. You're going to turn your pinky into more of a dominant finger on the fretboard. So you become a better guitar player all around when you try this. But what you're also doing is you're learning how to play the guitar with the slide on your finger. So again, you're learning how to grip that slide intuitively and control it. You just want to practice doing that. It takes hours and hours and hours of playing before you get a really, really comfortable feel on the slide. And you know, a lot of guitar players, they think if they don't get it in the first few hours, or if it's tricky to start doing it, or if they're making a lot of noise on the fretboard and stuff like that when you start playing slide, they're thinking like, man, you know, maybe I'm not a slide player. This is what this video is for. These are problems with the way you're approaching it. They're problems with your technique. And more than any of that, it does take hours and hours and hours for you to even get comfortable controlling the slide on your hand, not to mention playing it. So bear that in mind, be patient with it, follow my advice, and I guarantee it's going to be a whole lot easier. Okay, so this is another huge piece of advice that is very important to listen to. And I say this to a lot of slide players that are just starting out. They hear it, and then they think they don't need to follow it. But it really is true, and it's a huge help. The setup on your guitar does make a difference when you're learning to play slide. You can't just learn to play slide on, you know, let's say it's an electric guitar with really thin strings and really low action and a really, you know, like contoured radius to the fretboard. If you have a guitar that's set up for like really easy string bending, super low action, all of that, light strings, it's going to be very difficult, if not completely impossible, to learn how to play slide on it effectively. If you do have an electric, I mean, you can learn slide on it on any type of guitar. It can be an electric, an acoustic, a resonator, anything like that. But you do have to set the action a little bit different for it to be easy to play slide. And when you're learning, it's really important that you try to make it as easy for yourself as possible. You don't want to make it more difficult than it needs to be, because it's already a completely new piece of muscle memory that you start to have to develop. So my advice is this. I like to be able to fret on the guitar in tune, but I also like to play slide. So I keep the action at my nut, like in the first few frets down here, I keep that nice and low, just like I would have it if I was playing, you know, a normal style, normal fretted playing. But I like to raise the action at the bridge up until I can use the slide across all 6 strings on the 5th fret. So if I can do that, if I can pretty easily play a clean note with the slide across all 6 strings on the 5th fret, then I know my action at the bridge is high enough. Now I can slide that up to the 7th, back down, and it's nice across all 6 strings. You know, if the action's too low and you're hitting the frets, and you start to get some of that when you're sliding around, you're gonna want to raise the action just a little bit at the bridge, not at the nut. It's difficult to find that balance, especially when you're starting out, of pushing the strings down and you find you're hitting the frets all the time, even if your action's a little higher, then that means you're probably going to want to put some heavier strings on the guitar. And you don't have to go crazy with this. You don't have to get like the heaviest strings possible, but getting a little bit heavier strings is going to really help you learn to play slide easier. Now, if you really want to dig into the finer points, like real in-depth knowledge about how to set your guitar up, about a lot of these fundamental techniques, about how to control the slide, about how to hold the slide, about how to do all of these things in a lot of detail, then definitely you're going to want to check out my slide guitar, my new slide guitar series that I just released at justinjohnsonguitar.com. I have a huge series that goes into extreme detail about everything that I'm talking about. So if there is something you want to explore in a lot more detail, then definitely check that out. I've got all the information for that in the description below on this video. Okay, so there's two techniques now left in this video that I really want to dig into, because if you are not doing these two techniques, you will not be playing slide in the best way possible. Usually I don't like to say anything in like absolute terms like that. I like to say like you can develop your own style. You can do it your own way. You can create your own voice. That's all true. But if you're not doing the things that I'm about to tell you about, you're missing out on opportunities to sound better, play faster, play with more control, and just have it sound better. So these are the things that I want to teach you. It has to do with muting and it has to do with anchoring. So first of all, muting is what you're doing with your left hand and your right hand. There's two types of muting: left hand muting, right hand muting. The left hand muting is basically what you're doing behind the slide back here with these fingers. So when I'm playing a note and I want to stop it, I can lift my slide up off of the string, and because these fingers are behind the slide, lightly touching the string, I can use those fingers to mute the strings back here. These fingers also kill a lot of the noise like that would be happening all the time if I didn't mute. So if I didn't have these fingers back here muting, I would have a lot more noise already. These fingers also help guide the motions of the slide. So when you feel what strings you're on, you feel your way up and down the strings, these mutes back here, these fingers also help you feel the pressure of the strings and where they are so that you can easily guide your string down accurately. Also, the muting back here with your left hand muting also helps you put space between notes when you want it. So you can run legato licks where you don't mute between notes like that. But if you do want space between notes, you can lightly lift the slide like that. And when you do it fast, you have this nice little separation between the notes. And you use that in different places. Sometimes you slide into notes, sometimes you separate notes. So that was a combination of sliding into notes. Here's a slide, then space, space, slide down. So again, I'm doing that controlling mainly with my left hand muting back here. But there's another type of muting, and when you do both at the same time, you really start to master the sound you have with slide guitar, and that's right hand muting. Right hand muting is one of the main benefits to finger picking when you're playing slide. You know, you can play slide with a flat pick, but when you finger pick with the slide, you get the added benefit of all this right hand muting. So when I play with my right hand, I pluck the most with my index finger. I pluck a lot with my middle finger, and I'm using my thumb and my remaining fingers to mute the strings around those. You know, I will sometimes use my thumb to pick, but if you notice, a lot of times, most of the time I'm using my index and middle. And check this out. So if I played a riff on the G string here, like that, and I freeze, My thumb here is muting all of the strings above the string that I'm playing, in this case the G string. So I could play those. They can't make any noise because I'm muting them with my thumb. And then below the string I'm playing with my index finger, I'm muting the B string and the high E string with these fingers right here. And notice when I move around the strings, I move that muting. So right there, I just hit the B string, my thumb moved down, it's now muting 4 strings, and my pinky is muting that high E string. And then I move back to the G, moved my muting again. Now I'm on the D string, and my thumb is muting the 2 bass strings, and these 3 fingers are muting the 3 higher strings. So this is advanced right hand muting, but this is what a lot of players who are maybe at that intermediate skill level with slide guitar and they want to go into that really advanced style of slide, this is where it happens right here. The right hand muting is a huge element to being super clean. And when you start playing, especially in like standard tuning, you really need to have massive control over your muting, or else you're going to get a lot of noise and a lot of notes that don't sound harmonious together when you're playing. Okay guys, so that covers left hand and right hand muting. Now there's one more technique that is absolutely essential to mastering slide guitar. Without doing this, you really are not going to get the speed and the control and even the voice that you really need and want, I think, when you're playing slide. And it's this baby right here, the thumb on the back of the neck, anchoring. Now, the anchoring you're doing with your left hand is all about giving the slide and the motions of the slide a frame of reference against the strings and up and down the neck. So the main thing it's very important for is that when you put a little bit of pressure against the strings with the slide, the amount of distance between the string and the fretboard that you're pushing down is so small and so nuanced that if you don't have this anchor back here, you're going to be like wildly hitting the fretboard all over the place. And that's what a lot of people do when they start. You know, also if you have your thumb over here around the neck when you play slide, you're never going to get the kind of control you want. Your slide's going to be crooked. You're going to be playing out of tune. Now, as soon as you put that thumb on the back of the neck, see how the slide becomes parallel with the frets? You start being able to play in tune better. And because you have that frame of reference for your motions up and down the neck, you can play much more controlled, faster, more accurate, and with better vocal like inflections, like vibrato, like this. Like you get that nice vibrato. All of that comes from the forearm motions, kind of throwing the weight around of your hand in your forearm, but with the anchor on the back of the neck. Now look when I do that riff right there. That riff went from the 5th fret to the 1st fret. Now if you look at the back of the neck, check out what I'm doing on the back of the neck there. My thumb is basically between the 2nd fret and 3rd fret, and it's anchoring my motions. So you can see how my thumb basically stayed in place. It anchored those motions, and it gave me the ability to have a frame of reference for where I can build muscle memory and kind of, you know, whip between different frets. And without that frame of reference, without that anchor, those would be very hard to control, those motions, basically be impossible to. Now I know that sounds like a lot of information, but really, if you take these details and you start to apply all of them, and as you're learning slide, you're thinking, you know, am I controlling the guitar? Am I practicing getting control over the slide? Am I anchoring? Am I thinking about my muting? You know, is my guitar set up properly? All of these different things Let them sink in and let them help you along your journey as you're developing as a slide guitar player. I guarantee if you're missing any of these components, then when you start adopting these components and applying them to your own progress as a guitar player, I guarantee it's going to help you and it's going to help fast track your progress. If you really, really want to learn slide and dig into these concepts in detail and so much more, then I guarantee you're going to love my new slide guitar series that I just dropped on my guitar lesson platform. I'm adding to it constantly. It's already over 8 hours of lessons, and it goes into extreme detail about all of these things. How to set up your guitar, what strings to use, how to pick a slide, every little detail about how you should control your left hand and your right hand, how to control the guitar. There's a ton of exercises, scale diagrams for all of the open tunings that I use, all of the most essential open tuning information, a lot of song walkthroughs and song examples to get you playing stylistically so that you can play both lead guitar with slide, but also so that you can start playing like unaccompanied solo guitar, like Delta blues style slide. All of this is covered in my series there on slide guitar. So you can check that course and all of my guitar instruction out at justinjohnsonguitar.com, or you can get the Justin Johnson Guitar app for Android or iOS devices. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Click the subscribe button here. You rock.